We are now on to episode 13 of our mega series, where we're taking a look at every single competitor at this year's World's Strongest Man. If you've seen one of these episodes, you know the drill by now. We take a look at their story so far, how we think they can do on the events, and how we rate their overall chances. Today's athlete is a rising star from the UK, Shane Flowers.
Shane Flowers came over to Strongman from powerlifting, and he competed in and won the 2021 England Strongest Man, which earned him an invitation to Britain's Strongest Man. At that 2021 competition, Shane placed 7th overall in an established lineup of athletes. That performance was good enough to earn him an invitation to the 2022 show, which was held just 4 months later in February. Shane showed lots of improvements in just a short space of time, and he performed exceptionally well at the competition and placed 4th overall. Shane received a late invitation to Europe's Strongest Man 2022, and going into the Atlas Stones, he was actually in contention for getting onto the podium. However, due to a bicep strain, he ended up slipping down to 5th place. But still, a very good showing at his first Europe's Strongest Man.
Well, only 3 major shows that we can really look into from Shane. I've seen him do a few shows in England, obviously won England's Strongest Man, and I have to say, he's doing incredibly well. He's a very, very determined and very hard-working young man. You know, he trains late at night after full days working. If you watch his training videos, often he's outside in the dark with some car lights on just so they can see what they're doing. He's putting the work in.
Proper strongman, that is.
Proper strongman. And the progress he's made has just been truly sublime over the last couple of years.
Sublime.
I've really been impressed with Shane. Looking forward to seeing how he does in his first Worlds. That being said, as always, we're going to delve deep into the events that they'll be doing. We've seen Shane do exceptionally well on certain events in his few last shows. Obviously, he's got that powerlifting background as well. But let's take a look at the events for this year's competition.
The World's Strongest Man 2022 Heats kicks off with the loading race. How do we think Shane might do?
Well, this is Shane's first World's Strongest Man, so nerves are going to be there. You can't hide that. A lot of guys try to, but if you care about something at this level, which Shane clearly does, the nerves are clearly going to kick in. That doesn't mean he's going to let them bother him. You know, some people kind of strive and perform almost better with those type of nerves. Some people let them consume them. Obviously, looking at what he's done so far, particularly his performance at Britain's Strongest Man and Europe's Strongest Man. Let's remember that Europe's Strongest Man competition, he was called in last minute.
Yeah, he was a replacement.
And he was in contention of coming in the top 3.
Yeah.
You know, your first Europe's Strongest Man, that's an impressive debut.
First international competition, full stop.
Absolutely. And I think he can do very, very well on the loading. He's fast, he's athletic, you know, he's got height. He's perfectly built for loading. Long arms, all these things help, especially at Worlds where a lot of the objects are quite big and cumbersome. He's got that wingspan to be able to cope with them. He's very, very quick. I think if he can cope with the pressure, focus on his own lane, could be a good start for Shane.
Next is the deadlift ladder. Now, obviously coming from powerlifting, we'd expect this to be a strength for Shane.
Yeah, Shane's deadlift's very, very good. He came 3rd at the deadlift at Britain's Strongest Man, and he was 6th when they did the deadlift ladder at Europe's Strongest Man recently. And we had some very good deadlifters at that contest, including Janasha and Rauno Heinler, who are both 2 of the best deadlifters on the planet when it comes to strongman. Shane's deadlift is competitive. The issue with the deadlift for almost everyone is so good at deadlifting.
Yeah.
So it's about the transitions between each of these bars. And I keep mentioning that, but the guys need to be practicing. I mean, I've seen Lissis, who is looking at hook gripping, a lot of them. I've seen guys going for the figure of eights. The problem with the figure of eights, they can be a bit tricky to get in. You may slow yourself down. Other guys going for shorter straps so they can wrap on quickly. Other guys going for a reverse grip. So it's really going to come down to speed, I believe. We still don't know what the top weights are going to be.
No, we don't know if
as
it's
well.
going to be 380 or 400.
But we know based on Europe's Strongest Man, none of the guys managed to pull the 400. I think the 380 was the top weight that we saw at Europe's.
I think it can go at Worlds, definitely.
I believe if they stuck with the same weight, we will see a couple of guys pulling the 400, but we know what's going to get good points. 3 quick is going to be decent points. 4 is going to be really good points. Anyone does 5, they're scoring big. He's placed 6. We know he's capable of lifting them. He needs to be quick between each implement. Could come down to who's in your group. It could come down to split seconds. I remember World's Strongest Man, actually this one, 2014.
Oh yeah.
I had a deadlift against Mark Felix and Zadrunas Saviskas. And it was the barrel deadlift where the weights come in, you got to pull and you get timed on each rep. I really trained hard that year on speed, and it actually paid off because myself, Felix and Zadrunas all lifted the same amount of weight, but I did it quicker. And that's one of the factors at World's Strongest Man. They do time things like this. So speed is going to be important. If he's practiced that in transition, he didn't really have time to practice that leading up to Europe's.
Well, no.
So I think the prep that he's had, he's known he's been going to Worlds for longer. I think he could do well on the deadlift.
Next is the car walk. Not something he would have done in powerlifting.
No, he definitely didn't do this in powerlifting. And I'd say this is a weaker event for Shane.
Okay.
2021 Britain's Strongest Man, he placed 8th out of 10 on the super yoke. He's never actually done a car walk. And the car walk, if you've never done it before, is a little bit harder than a super yoke. It's not massively harder, but there is a little bit more rocking back and forth. You need a little bit more core stability. And it's not an event that he's had an awful lot of experience in. So I feel this is an event that maybe he will drop some points in.
So next is log lift for reps, around about 150 kilos. Now I know, speaking to powerlifters, sometimes they really struggle coming over, getting used to an overhead because it's not something they practice. They actually overdevelop maybe sometimes doing the bench press.
Yeah, a lot of big benchers, they tend to get quite overdeveloped in the front delts, which restricts mobility for pressing overhead. Now, this isn't everyone, but it is a common trait that you do see with a lot of powerlifters. Shane's worked really hard and his overhead is improving very quickly. It's not quite at the level to really challenge the bigger names, I think, this year. He needs to focus on getting as many reps as he can and just trying to do damage limitation here. He's hit a 170 logging competition, which he did at Europe's Strongest Man. That's not bad at all, but at World's Strongest Man level, it's just not enough. And I think he's going to need a good performance on this event. Could come down to who's in the group. He's capable of getting a few reps. I don't see him scoring big points here, though.
The wrecking ball hold. I know no one's done this event, but it's a test of grip, and surely coming from powerlifting, he's got to have some grip.
Well, Shane has come into Strongman like a wrecking ball. He's doing exceptionally well in a very short period of time.
What they don't know is he is the wrecking ball, and they are all holding him.
He has all the tools to have a good grip. His hands are big, he's got long fingers, he's very good at deadlifting. And you know, I know this sounds kind of stupid things that you're kind of pointing out, but these are things, if you've got short little chubby hands, your grip tends to not be as good.
Do you like check the guy's hands out when you're talking to them and stuff, or do you like? Are you eyeing them up?
I wouldn't say I'm eyeing them up.
You know, no, just like sizing up the hands. And stuff, mate, can you pass it on?
I certainly don't go to that level.
Okay.
But you just kind of, you know, you meet someone, you shake their hand, you kind of figure things out pretty quickly.
Okay.
You know, it's not like
they all feel
it's not like I'm there getting a tape measure out and measuring people's hands and stuff. But Shane comes from powerlifting and he's pulled some big numbers raw in powerlifting, so where you're not allowed to use straps. He has grip strength. He's just not been tested at this type of event. So it's really hard to say how I think he'll do. I don't think he's going to challenge the likes, you know, the super grip guys. But it's a bit of an unknown for him.
His own, maybe.
I hope so. You know, it's an event that he's just a little bit unknown on, so really hard to call what I think he'll do, but he's got all the traits to have a decent grip. So hopefully that will transition over well and he can perform well on this one.
If Shane finds himself in second or third place after these events, he has to do the dreaded stone off. How do we think he will do?
Well, he's proven that he's very good at stones.
Yeah.
Second in the Atlas Stones to Tom Stoltman, and it was the heavier set of stones. So when they did Britain's Strongest Man this year, they did the Giants Live used their heavier set of stones, and he was clearly second to Tom. no shame in being second to Tom. He beat a number of very good stone lifters in that competition. And he's built well for stones. The one issue is he had that little bicep strain at Europe's Strongest Man. That could play on his mind. Hopefully that's fully recovered. His training's gone really well, and stones he's feeling confident on.
So with all that said, how do we think young Shane will do in his first World's Strongest Man?
Do you know what? He has a chance of getting into the final, and he's certainly got a chance of getting into the stone off. The question marks for me are obviously the log lift could cost him some points, and possibly the car walk. He needs to try and do damage control there. If he can perform as well as he can, get a few points on those, and really smash the events he's confident on, he's got a great chance of getting into the stones. And as you've seen, you saw yourself at Britain's Strongest Man, I know from his training, watching what he's been doing, he's a great stone lifter. So, depending on who he's up against, he could well be a threat to make the final at his first ever World's Strongest Man. I think regardless of how he does this year, it's going to be an amazing learning opportunity. These are the type of guys I like seeing go to Worlds. Guys that are on their way up and in a couple of years could be a real contender. And that's what Shane is. If he stays calm, learns from the experience, I think in a year, 1 year, 2 years time, we're going to see him really challenging in the final. So regardless of how he does this year, go there, learn from it, and I think you've got a big, big future ahead of you.
So there we are, 13 down, 17 to go. Let us know, guys, in the comments if you think Shane has a good chance of making the final. And obviously, if you are enjoying this series, let us know by liking the video, making sure you're subscribed as well, making sure your family are subscribed from their accounts too.
Auntie Liz is putting a lot of work into this. She needs that support.
Everything's fine.